Thank you very much, Mrs. Aaron. Let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and Constituency Empowerment, Honorable Justina Charles, the Sports Coordinator, Mr. Trevor Shillingford, the Press Secretary, Mrs. Aaron, and representatives from the various media houses, and of course, persons following via the radio and the internet. Good morning. On behalf of the Honorable Minister, I would like to welcome all of you to today's press briefing. However, before we begin, I would like, on behalf of the Minister and the staff of the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Constituency Empowerment, to extend our deepest sympathies to the persons who suffered loss during the hurricane. In particular, we remember those who have lost loved ones, especially children. Too many of our children were stolen by Maria. I would also like to extend our sympathies to the family and friends of Miss Jacinta David, who was a staff member of this ministry. I want to urge every one of us to remember them and their families in our prayers as they attempt to cope with this tragedy. And every time we complain about having no water or no electricity or those pesky mosquitoes, let's remember that some among us are waking every morning without their loved ones, just to put it in perspective. Like every other area, sports was dealt a very severe blow by Hurricane Maria. And immediately after the hurricane, a revision had to be done of this year's scheduled sports programs. I'm happy to inform that the revised programs have already commenced, and the sports coordinator will give you more details on that. An assessment was also done of all government sporting facilities after the hurricane, to include the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, all our playing fields, and our courts. Again, the Minister will speak to some of the damage to those facilities a bit later. This morning, I will brief you on where the Ministry was at with respect to sports. Our focus is on sports this morning. At the time of the hurricane, in terms of our approved capital projects for this financial year. In this financial year, an amount of $8,234,064 was approved for the construction and development of sporting facilities. And some of these projects you would be familiar with because we've been having press conferences for some of them. For example, the new National Multi-Sports Complex. You may remember that earlier this year the schematic designs were presented to Cabinet and stakeholders from the representatives of the various sporting disciplines. And the next stage for that project would have been the design development phase, which would also include preparation of construction documents. For the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, we had two projects that were approved. One was the lighting of the playing field, or improvement of the lighting of the playing field, and also the construction of a new gymnasium. And work had already commenced in terms of getting quotes for the lighting, sourcing quotes for the lights, and the tendering process for the construction of the gym was ongoing at the time. However, I am sure that you all would have noticed the extensive damage that happened at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. So government would have to do a significant amount of work in terms of bringing back the Windsor Park Sports Stadium to the international standard that it needs to be at. The covering of the Masek basketball court was another much talked about project that the ministry was undertaken, and we were also at an advanced stage on that project. Even if you may not have seen a lot happening on the court, but we had already given a 50% down payment to the Trinidad manufacturers, and substructure works were ongoing in preparation for the installation of the steel frame roof. And the targeted date for receipt of the steel components was September 30th of this year, and the targeted completion date for the project was supposed to be October 30th. So if Maria had not passed by, Masek basketball court would be up and running. Presently, those of you who drive in that direction, you may have noticed that the site is being used for storage of light poles as Dominica continues to restore power to the communities in the area. Funds were also approved in this financial year for 3 playing fields. We had the rehabilitation of the Geneva playing field, the rehabilitation of the Collyho playing field, and the construction of a new Masek playing field, which is adjacent to the Masek basketball court. You may recall that both the Collyho playing field and the Geneva playing field, in particular the Geneva playing field, they were severely affected by Tropical Storm Erica when the river flooded the banks. It eroded sections of the playing fields and brought a lot of debris onto the surface of the playing field. Then there comes Hurricane Maria, causing more flooding and more damage to those playing fields. The site for the Masek playing field is presently being used to store debris from the cleanup process. But this is a temporary arrangement, of course. And finally, we had funds approved for construction of 2 tennis and netball courts in Portsmouth. This project was at the design phase, which was almost complete. As you would imagine, given the utter devastation caused by Maria, government has to revise its programs and projects in order to determine what changes need to be made, as priorities have shifted and the focus is now on rebuilding better and in a more climate resilient manner. So we most likely would have to look at the designs, all our designs, review all our designs to ensure that whatever we construct moving forward is done in a climate resilient manner. So that process continues. However, hopefully the minister will be able to share some of government's decisions with regards to continuation of those capital projects. Thank you.